Okay, had a little bit of a disaster with the filming. I've deleted the wrong file. Basically, the French skirmishers who were by the blockhouse, they initially moved 4 inches back, 1 inch for each point of shock over the amount of figures that were left. They then took a force morale test, which they actually did well on, and the result was that they didn't lose a force morale point. But because they'd got double the excess of shock than they got figures, they then became broken, so they then had to take another test on the force morale, but first they had to see how far back they would go. It's a 2d6 roll plus a 6 inches. They actually rolled 10 on the dice, so with the 6 it goes up to 16, which actually took them off the table, hence the gap. No troops there because they've run away. So they've gone. I then rolled for their force morale, and on this occasion they didn't do as well as the previous die roll, but they weren't going to not get away without losing a point off their force morale. So they've actually lost 1 morale point, which I've now taken off them. The French started at 11, so they've now gone down to 10, which is level with the British. So both sides are now on the same force morale, and that is a look at the battlefield as it stands for now. Okay, so the French marine skirmishers are practically, well, the 16 inches would take them off the edge of the table, but in these rules they don't go off the edge. They'll stay at the edge and mill around a bit. So they're as close to the edge as I can get them without them falling off the table, because there's a slight slope here. So that's where they came from. That's where they've ended up. Now I will put the smoke with them so that we know that they are still unloaded, and I will alter this dice down to 10 because of the loss of the morale force point. Okay, so that's where we'll leave it. And the final play before I pull the next chit out is that the British officer number 1, who used a flag to increase his status level to a 3, he used 1 initiative to order the light troops back out of the way. They fired and caused some injury on the French light troops. He then ordered the British regulars to act, so that was his second point of command, and then his last initiative he's going to use to take a point of shock off the light troops, as he is now within the 2-inch radius, which means that he's chosen to be attached to the light troops at this point. So they're going to go down from 4 points of shock down to 3. Okay, so now with the British's turn over, we get to draw another chit out of the bag, see what will happen. Now the British have got 1 flag in play, and the French have got 3, so we'll see what's gonna go. So let's jingle it up a little bit, and out it comes, and it is blue 2, which is the French skirmish unit which is now unfortunately down to 1 unit there. So blue 2 is to go next. Okay, so the situation is that blue unit 2 has been activated to fire. So the blue unit 2 is the skirmishers just hidden behind the screen of gunfire from their last turn. So they will reload and then fire. Now, because they're light infantry skirmishers, they can actually then move because they get an extra dice of movement per turn. So they're going to load, fire, move. Now they're over close range, so with them being armed with muskets, that means they're at long range, so they would need normally 6s to hit, but I'm going to use one of the flags, which will then take it down to 5s and 6s. No, sorry, I'm going to use a flag to add a dice, but light infantry skirmishers firing get a +1 to their roll, so it will be 5s and 6s. So that's where we are at the moment. The British need to think whether they want to use any of the 2 flags that they've got. So I'm going to finish here and go to the rolls. Okay, so 5s and 6s, 7 dice because I've used the flag to up the dice. And here we go. And we have exactly 1 hit. So 1 hit on those fires. So I will now roll to see if that hit does any damage. They're in the open, and I need 6s to kill, 3s to 5s for shock. And it's a 6, so it's another kill on the British line unit. So I will do that, and as a group I can say where the fire goes. So the most likely place for the fire to go would be on this end unit there, because the unit is there which fired at him. So we will do that. The next roll that I will do will be for how far I can move the infantry away. So I'll just do that. So here we go. This is to see what their movement is, and the movement will be 4 inches away. So they'll move as a group 4 inches away from the British line regiment, hopefully trying to keep the amount of damage that regiment might do if they get to fire on that unit, because as we saw, the other unit of light infantry skirmishers disappeared quite quickly when they fired. Okay, let's end there. Okay, so the French Marine skirmishers have moved back 4 inches. Here's the situation from the British perspective. So they've moved slightly further back. Unfortunately, they are still within musket shot, but it will mean that they are at long range. And because they are skirmishers, if they do get fired at, they are of course in one cover better than they would be. Now they are actually in broken ground, but we had decided at the beginning of the game that the broken ground would not act as any cover, so they would just count as being in light cover rather than open. So that is the situation. Right, we're ready for the next chit, but before we do that, I'm actually going to spend my 2 flags and use sharp practice, which means I can reload instantly. So I'm going to reload my French line infantry, just in case. So sharp practice, 2 flags, reloaded. Okay, so now we get on with the draw. So I'll just mix up the tokens which are in. None have magically dropped out so far this time. So let's see what one we are coming out with, and it is Red Unit 4. Red Unit 4. Okay, so the British decided to attach Leader 4, who'd just been activated, to the British Light Infantry and use him to take a point of shock off. So the Light Infantry have gone from 3 points of shock down to 2. It's now time to take another chit out of the bag. So we'll get it down here, we'll ruffle it around, and let's see what comes out this time. And it is a red flag. Okay, so we'll carry on taking chits out. Let's see what comes out now. And it is a unit which is blue 1, which is the officer which is attached to the French regular line troops who in the last turn presented and fired. Right, so French Officer 1 has now been activated on the pull of his chit. Now he's attached to the line regiment, who are at the moment suffering 1 shock. So he's going to use 1 command initiative to reduce the shock on that unit. He will then use his 2nd command initiative to get that unit into action. So we're now going to do a roll to see what they're going to do. Now they have been firing controlled volleys, so they don't need a roll to see whether they will stop doing that. Because they're controlled, they will now follow orders. If they'd been uncontrolled, I'd have to roll to see if I could stop them from firing. So what they're actually going to do is the roll is for them to move. So I'm going to try and move them forward. Now they're actually in ground which is disruptive. In these rules it's just can't remember the term, but I'll just find it quickly. I think it's broken ground. That's it, broken ground. So it's not going to affect the formation as it is, but what it will affect is the movement of the formation. So they can't run, and they will suffer 1 pip less on your dice roll. So if I roll a 6, they will only be able to move 5. So let's get on with that then. So we're removing the shock, and then we're going to come down here for the roll to see how far they move. So 1d6, need to roll high. Would you look at that, they've stalled, so they stay where they are. Wow, that is not good for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present. So I'm going to keep them now presented so that they're going to be in controlled fire. So they've stopped where they are, and they've decided they're going to have another go at the French. So they're presenting, sorry, the British don't want to fire at the French, so they're going to stay where they are. So let's just have a look at that. So there they are, stood stationary but ready to dip their toes yet again when ordered. So with that disastrous move for the French, it's now time to draw another chit out of the bag, which we'll do straight away. Now the British have got 3 flags out already, so obviously because we're doing this cross videoing, if they want to use their flags before the whatever comes out of the bag, they can do, but that will be a discussion on the internet. So let's see what's coming out now, and it is red 3, which is the light troops and Indians commander, who is down here. So that guy there with the little doggy, red 3. Right, here we go then, a review of where we are up to with the battle so far. So British units here, the light troops which are fired and unloaded, the line troops are fired and unloaded, and then we come over here to the Indians, who are ready, willing and able. The French line troops are just up there on the ridge, and their light troops are trying to disappear behind the fort on the right hand side. They're unloaded, the line troops are loaded, the French courrier de bois are in the field and loaded, and then you've got the British irregular skirmishers armed with rifles, 2 turns to reload, and then we come down here to the Rangers, who are just moving at the moment. So that is where we're up to. I'll just come round towards the French side so you can see what it's like from the French side, and that is the situation at the moment for both sides. Okay, so the British officer number 3 has been activated. He's commands the Indian group and the light troops here, which are at the moment now under the command of 2 other British officers. So he's going to order the Indian native contingent to attack the French skirmishers up on the ridge. Now, just behind the rock there is a French officer hiding. So the Indian contingent activated, they're going to use 2 activations plus a step out to try and reach the French Marines and engage them in fisticuffs. Now, I had a discussion with the British commanders to make sure that they actually wanted to reach the French Marines and not stop at the officer and fight the officer. So they've said that they're going to go for the Marines, but what that will mean is, obviously, you see a pack of screaming Indians coming towards you, you're not going to stand there, so the French officer needs to get out of the way or evade, which he can do because he's part of the light troops. And to do that, he's going to need to roll 2d6 to see how far he goes. Now, This is a voluntary withdrawal, and I take it from the rules. It's not a case of you roll the dice, see how far you've got, and then choose to go up to as much as you want to get you out of the contact. It's you roll the dice, what you get is what you move. So if I roll 12, I've got to move 12. So that's the case. So we'll come down to the dice tray, because what I will do is I'll roll for the officer first. I'm going to do this in stages, so I'm going to roll for the officer first. I'll then roll the first dice for the Indian movement. No, I won't. I'll roll for the officer first, and I have decided that the French Marines are going to also run. So I will then roll for the French Marines move. Now the problem here for the French Marines is they've got to go straight back away from the enemy, and the table edge is not that far away, and of course if they roll too high and they go off the table, then they're lost. They're running back to Montreal or Quebec or the Three Rivers. So let's see what happens. So first of all the officer, then the French Marines, and then I will do the Indians one step at a time, just to buoy up the suspense. So here we go. So there's the dice for rolling. Zoom it slightly. So the French officer first. So the French officer will run 9 inches. So I will now how far back the French officer will go. French officer will move back 9 inches. So he moves all the way back to there. Okay. And now I will roll for the French Marines. Again, only 2 dice. And like I say, they have to move away from the direction the enemy's coming. So here we go. And they will move 8 inches back. So 8 inches, which I think is fine. I don't think that's gonna. Might just get them out of the charge distance that the Indian could have. So 8 inches, and it brings them right back here, close to the edge, not off the edge. Take the smoke with us, so that we remember that they have fired and they need to reload. Okay, so now we will do the Indians. So the Indians. So first activation. And the second activation, and then the step out. So here we go. So this is the first and second activation together. They're not running. Six inches. So they only move 6 inches. So let's see where that puts the French Indians now before they use step out. And there they are, they've moved 6 inches. And there's the French there. So I'm just going to stop it there and just check the rules on step out. Okay, for the step out, they'll use 1 flag, and that gives them 1d6 of extra movement. So 1d6, they're looking for a high roll. Let's just come down to the dice tray and see what the roll is going to be. 6, so it's a good roll. So we'll just go back up to the troops and see how far that will take them. Six inches more. There. One shock for the Indians. Put the officer number with the officer. Okay, so that means the officer is within 4 inches of the French Marines. The Indians also can go as attached. Stay under command. So that's quite a perilous position for the French to be in. So let's just take a closer look at how that is going to work out for the French. Pardon the camera work. Here we go. So there's the British native contingent, and there's the French right on the edge of the table. And you can see